Are you ready for a late-night story time? Prepare to uncover the darkest secrets hidden in the halls of academia. These are the stories whispered between roommates at night, passed down through generations of terrified students. We're diving deep into the chilling world of college horror, where every shadow could hold a secret and every corner could lead to a nightmare. So grab your headphones, turn off the lights, and get ready to be terrified. Picture this. You're a freshman, fresh out of high school, navigating the wild world of college life. You finally get that coveted dorm room assignment, and you're stoked to meet your roommate, someone you'll be sharing a cramped space with for the next year. At first, everything seems normal. Your roommate, let's call him Mark, is friendly enough, but something about him feels off. Maybe it's the way he never seems to sleep, his eyes always glued to something in the shadows. Or maybe it's the strange chanting you hear coming from his side of the room at 3 a.m. It starts subtly. You wake up in the middle of the night to find Mark standing over your bed, just staring at you with this unsettling grin. When you confront him about it, he laughs it off, saying he was just checking if you were okay. But the incidents escalate. Your belongings start disappearing and reappearing in bizarre places. You find strange symbols drawn on your textbooks, symbols you've never seen before. You try talking to Mark, but he just shrugs it off, his eyes flickering with something that sends chills down your spine. One night, you wake up to the most terrifying sight imaginable. Mark is hovering over your bed, his eyes glowing an eerie red in the darkness. He's chanting in an unknown language, his voice raspy and inhuman. You scream, the blood curdling in your veins. The lights flick on, and Mark is gone, vanished into thin air. The library, a haven for knowledge, a sanctuary for studying. And in this tale, a breeding ground for terror. It's midnight, the witching hour, and you're buried deep in your books, cramming for that dreaded final exam. The library is eerily quiet, the only sounds the gentle hum of the fluorescent lights and the frantic scratching of your pen. You glance up, your eyes strained from hours of staring at textbooks. Suddenly, you hear it, a faint whisper, barely audible, coming from the stacks of books behind you. You brush it off as your imagination, a trick of the silence playing on your tired mind. But the whispers persist, growing louder, more distinct. You can make out snippets of conversation, hushed voices discussing things that send chills down your spine. You strain to hear, your heart pounding in your chest. The voices seem to be coming from the restricted section, a shadowy corner of the library rumored to house ancient texts and forbidden knowledge. Curiosity and fear wage war within you. You slowly rise from your desk, your legs feeling like jelly. You cautiously approach the restricted section, drawn in by the allure of the unknown and the unsettling whispers that beckon you closer. As you reach the edge of the restricted section, the whispers abruptly stop. The silence is deafening, suffocating. You peer into the darkness, but the shadows are too deep, concealing whatever secrets lie within. Suddenly, you feel a cold breath on the back of your neck. Landing that dream internship can feel like winning the lottery. But what if the interview process itself turns into a nightmare? Imagine this. You've been invited for a final round interview at a prestigious tech company. You're beyond excited, your resume polished, your elevator pitch perfected, but there's one strange detail. The interview is scheduled for 10 p.m. at the company's headquarters, a towering skyscraper overlooking the city. You arrive at the designated time, your heart racing with anticipation and a touch of unease. The building is eerily deserted, the only light emanating from a single office on the top floor. You step into the elevator, the silence broken only by the soft hum of the motor. As the elevator ascends, a wave of dizziness washes over you. The lights flicker, plunging you into momentary darkness. When the lights flicker back on, you realize with a jolt that you're not on the top floor. You're on a floor that doesn't exist, a shadowy, unfinished space with exposed wires and concrete walls. Panic sets in as you frantically press the buttons, but the elevator remains unresponsive. Suddenly, you hear a voice, cold and mechanical, echoing through the empty floor. "Welcome," the voice booms, "to your final interview." The voice directs you to step out of the elevator and into the darkness. Fear paralyzes you, but something compels you to obey. You cautiously step out onto the unfinished floor, your heart pounding in your chest. The air is thick with a strange metallic scent. You follow the voice's instructions, navigating a maze of concrete pillars and construction debris. The further you go, the more unsettling your surroundings become. You spot strange symbols scrawled on the walls, symbols that seem vaguely familiar, like something out of a nightmare. Finally, you reach a dead end. Every college has its haunted spots, and the library, with its ancient texts and centuries-old secrets, is often at the top of the list. This tale takes place in the dimly lit aisles of your college library, where whispers of a ghostly presence have circulated for years. You're on a quest for a rare book, a first edition tucked away in the library's deepest stacks. As you delve deeper into the labyrinthine rows of books, you notice the air grow colder, the silence heavier. The musty scent of aged paper mingles with a strange, sweet aroma like decaying flowers. You shiver, pulling your sweater tighter around you. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker, casting long, dancing shadows on the bookshelves. You glance over your shoulder, a sense of unease prickling at the back of your neck. You're certain you saw something move in the shadows, a fleeting glimpse of a figure disappearing around a corner. You dismiss it as your imagination, but your heart quickens its pace. Suddenly a book falls from the shelf behind you, landing with a loud thud that echoes through the silent stacks. You spin around, your breath catching in your throat. There's no one there. You cautiously approach the fallen book, your hand trembling as you reach out to pick it up. As your fingers brush against the worn leather cover, you feel a jolt of electricity shoot up your arm. You recoil your hand, dropping the book back to the floor. That's when you see it, a ghostly apparition, shimmering in the dim light. It's the figure of a young woman, dressed in attire from a bygone era. Her face is pale, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. You're paralyzed with fear, unable to tear your gaze away from the spectral figure. The ghostly woman reaches out a translucent hand, her touch sending a wave of icy cold through your body. College festivals are supposed to be a time for celebration, a chance to unwind before the stress of finals week. But in this story, the festive atmosphere takes a sinister turn, plunging the campus into a night of terror. The air crackles with excitement as students gather for the annual Fall Fest. The aroma of popcorn and cotton candy fills the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and upbeat music. But beneath the surface of revelry, a darkness stirs. You and your friends are determined to make the most of the festivities. You brave the haunted house, shrieking with laughter as masked figures jump out from the shadows. You indulge in sugary treats, the sweetness failing to mask the growing sense of unease that settles over you. As dusk descends, casting long shadows across the campus, the atmosphere takes on a palpable shift. The music seems to distort, taking on a discordant, unsettling tone. The laughter of your fellow students sounds strained, laced with a hint of hysteria. You notice a group of students dressed in dark robes, their faces hidden behind grotesque masks. They move through the crowd like wraiths, their presence sending chills down your spine. You try to brush it off as a prank, an elaborate attempt to add to the spooky ambiance of the festival, but deep down, a primal fear begins to gnaw at your insides. As the night wears on, the events take a sinister turn. The power suddenly cuts out, plunging the festival into darkness. Screams erupt from the crowd as panic spreads like wildfire. You're separated from your friends in the chaos, your heart pounding in your chest. You stumble through the darkness, disoriented and terrified. Suddenly you feel a hand clamp down on your shoulder. You whirl around, your breath catching in your throat. Standing before you is one of the masked figures, their eyes glowing an eerie red in the darkness. So the next time you're walking through the hallowed halls of your college, remember these stories. Were these just stories, or could they happen at your college too? Look over your shoulder, listen closely to the whispers in the library, and be careful who you trust, especially when it comes to your roommate. You never know what lurks in the shadows of academia, waiting for its next victim.